We already touched on 6 big unannounced games we will likely see at E3 2018, but in this new episode of the Your Game Show I want to talk about games we already know are coming to the biggest gaming convention starting June 9th, games that I can't wait for, but also games that I think everyone will be talking about. Because that is what the Your Game Show is about, predicting things based on research. So let's get into it. I will talk about some noticeable missing games at the end of the video. So if you enjoyed that, then a like would be super appreciated, and let's go! We don't know a lot about the new open world RPG from the Witcher developers Cyberpunk 2077, and we haven't seen anything besides the teaser trailer from January 2013. While the game was even announced before that, in May 2012, and I always thought it was interesting to read about the developers CD Projekt Red in an article by Eurogamer, where it was noted that in 2013 already 50 people were working on this game, doing probably the pre-production. So thinking of ideas and stuff like that. And that is 2 years before The Witcher 3 even came out. So yes, this sci-fi open world RPG has been in development for a while, and at this point the development studio is even bigger than it ever was during the development of The Witcher 3. So yes, this game will be huge and very ambitious. They, for example, have this language system because not all the characters speak English, so you need to buy a translator implant to better understand the NPCs. But there are also layers to that, with some translation implants being better than others. So I'm really curious to see how that will shake out. As the name suggests, the game is set in 2077 in California, and while multiplayer was first in the cards, it seems like they're now going to focus on this being a single player game first, without any microtransactions by the way, so that is really good news. In 2016 the game was still far off, and CD Projekt Red said that they still had a lot of work to do, but now 2 years later things are obviously different. We now know that CD Projekt Red will show a new game at the biggest gaming convention, and that it's an RPG, so 1 + 1 is 2, right? And let's not forget this beep tweet out of nowhere from the official Cyberpunk Twitter account on January 10th, teasing that stuff might happen this year. And this beep tweet, by the way, got 45,000 likes, so that shows you that a lot of people are interested in this game. And of course, The Witcher 3 is the best game of the generation according to many people, so obviously the next project from the developer will have a lot of goodwill behind it. I think we will see the game at the Microsoft show on June 10th, because the previous year's CD Projekt Red also joined during the Xbox show to showcase Gwent and even The Witcher 3, so I think this will be the same for Cyberpunk as well. But of course, I think the game will launch on all the platforms. It was even noted that Cyberpunk 2077 is made with the new generation of consoles in mind, so that it will probably release on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, as well as the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox 2 and the PC. So that is pretty interesting stuff. I can't wait to see what this game will look like. I think it will blow us away. Just like the gameplay footage for The Last of Us Part 2, the second game I want to touch on here. I mean, we've seen more of that game than from Cyberpunk 2077, but one trailer created more questions than answers. Is Joel a ghost, for example? And what is up with Ellie? And the other trailer included new characters in a very violent scene. And you're probably familiar with this game, right? You probably finished it. Apocalypse, a scary clicker zombie type of enemies, but most of all an emotional story of Joel and Ellie that journey through this world. And the next game is about revenge, and at E3 2018 we will finally see what that means in an extended demo with gameplay as already announced at PlayStation Experience. And during that show in December last year, we also learned that the development was around the 50 to 60% complete. So yes, a release in 2019 seems likely, and hopefully we will hear more about that at E3 as well. Although I think we will only get 2019 at the end of the presentation, no spring or something else, because they probably don't know it internally as well. And I don't care, take your time. Remember that the first The Last of Us was also delayed by 6 weeks, and that really made the difference according to the developers. So please take the time that it takes to make this again one of my favorite games of all time, because the original is really up there and a ton of people agree. It of course also won a ton of awards, making Part 2 instantly one of the biggest games at E3. Cool is that for this second game, Hallie Gross is joining the writing team. So she worked on Westworld, a very deep television show. If you're not familiar, totally check it out. So there will be some fresh eyes on the script. That will be really awesome. awesome. The game will be largely based in Seattle, as people already pieced together, and it will of course once again have a multiplayer. And during PlayStation Experience they kinda hinted at a Battle Royale mode as well, with Gross saying that she plays PUBG a ton, and let's be honest, that would work really well in the Last of Us setting. But yeah, that is for the future. I think of course during E3 the focus will be on the single player, and I really can't wait to see more, without them of course spoiling a lot. But I'm not worried about that, because Sony has been doing a great job with games like Detroit and God of War, with showing us enough to get us hyped. And if you then start playing, you will see that it was only like the beginning of the game that they showed, so it does not impact your enjoyment of the rest of the story at all. I mean, The Last of Us Part 2 won many most anticipated awards, for example last year at the Game Awards as well, so it will be huge without a question, and I can't wait to see it in action. Moving on to number 3, March 2019, that is the release date of Anthem, BioWare's next game. And that name might have taken a hit after the release of Mass Effect Andromeda. I finished the game by the way and kind of forgot about it at this point. But Anthem is made by the core team, so that's really important. These are the guys behind the original Mass Effect trilogy, for example. And looking at this gameplay, I got instantly excited. The game was already in development for 5 years at last year's E3, so 6 years at this point, with EA first planning to release the game before April 2018 after delaying it to improve the live service component, because this game has a 10-year plan. Sounds familiar? Well, that is because Activision has the same with Destiny, so you could say that Anthem is the Destiny from EA, so it's going to be big. And you have to remember that this is the final E3 they will show it at if they want to hit that March 2019 release date, so they better bring the big guns. So just like Destiny, this is an online focused game, but you can still take control over your story, still have choices that impact the outcome. So it will be interesting to see how this shakes out, because this might really set this game apart from the Destiny and the Division out there, where the story has been an afterthought and is not really interesting at all. But apart from the fact that BioWare says that it's still like a BioWare type of game, we don't really know any more info at this point, with the E3 2017 trailer being the only footage we got. By the way, that footage has 7.3 million views on the game's official channel, with the second one getting 2.5 million views. So the hype is there, people are curious, and with this being a make or break for BioWare, it got to be huge. And I personally have faith. So of course EA will show it during their EA Play conference on June 9th, and I totally think we will see it the day after that during the Microsoft show as well. So little is known about the game, but I really can't wait to see more, because I totally expect to spend time in this world. So yes, Anthem is far away, but this next game, Marvel Spider-Man for PS4, is really close, especially if you compare it to Cyberpunk and The Last of Us Part 2, I would imagine. And you might think, we already know a lot about this game, why will it be huge at E3? Well, I just want to stress how big this game is and will be when it launches on September 7th. So during the E3 show from Sony, they will focus on 4 games, including Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima, the samurai open world game from Sucker Punch. And Spider-Man will be the final game they talk about. And the Spider-Man E3 2017 trailer last year had more views, I think, if I did the quick math, than all the other Sony exclusives combined, ranking in at 31 million, and that is only on the Marvel Entertainment channel, because of course there are other channels that re-upload the trailer and also ranked in millions of views. For comparison, the God of War E3 2017 trailer got 7.4 million views on the official PlayStation account. So whatever will come out of E3 for Spider-Man will be a huge hit, and according to Sony, we will be blown away by what we will get to see during the E3 show. And with all the other games that I talk about in this video, I'm like, I want to see more. With this game, I'm more like, I already got my collector's edition pre-ordered. Just give me the game at this point, because I'm already on board. Maybe they will unveil the statue, by the way, at the show, because we still don't know where Spider-Man is like standing on. But either way, at E3 2018, we will see new stuff, maybe a new villain, some new suits with some awesome new powers. The game is huge, and while we heard about the open world stuff in the Game Informer coverage, we haven't seen it in action yet. So maybe an open world demo showcasing all the different activities you can do in the world. Either way, June 11th, more Spider-Man, and it will be big. The final game that will be huge at E3 that is already announced to be there is The Division 2. Ranking in $330 million in 5 days on the market, Ubisoft made a ton of bank selling this game. Sure, the hype was real in March 2016, everyone played it and then kinda moved on, but still a solid fanbase stayed and argues that after a rocky first year, the game is now better than it's ever been, following free updates and tweaks to make the game exciting again. So I think Ubisoft is in a great position to start talking about the next game, and they also of course learned a lot from those previous years improving the original. And I totally believe that because of the good press and the goodwill they got after making so many improvements for free as well, people will give The Division a try even if they did not really like the first one. Ubisoft has to knock it out of the park though by showing interesting new areas to explore, improved gameplay, hopefully some interesting new enemies, and just way more. A battle royale mode in the dark zone, anyone? While right now we only got a logo, in June the marketing campaign for the game will start, also with an update to the original The Division, where they will add shields that you can collect to then add new content in The Division 2. I don't think we can underestimate The Division 2, and just like Anthem, The Division 2 is supposed to launch before April 2019. So this will be the only E3 we can see it shine, and I think a lot of eyes will be on it for sure. So yeah, no Nintendo, while I do think that Super Smash Bros. For the Switch will be huge and the potential Pokemon game as well, but I don't really talk Nintendo here on the channel, and you as a regular JorRaptor viewer are probably not interested in that as well, but of course correct me if I'm wrong. And Death Stranding is also a game I toyed around with, but I still think that while what they will show will be awesome, I don't think it will resonate with a lot of people yet. We still need to see more of that game in the end, that's what I think. And Call of Duty Battlefield, I mean, those games will be the biggest games of the year, but I don't think they will get all the attention because we get a new Call of Duty every year and a new Battlefield game every other year. I hope you will join me next week for a new episode of the Your Game Show here on JorRaptor as well. Of course, subscribe to stay up to date on that. Drop a like to support the channel, and it's not my intention to do these list videos every week in every episode, but with E3 approaching and a great response to the first episode, thank you for that, I thought it made sense to kind of touch on the games we missed in the previous episode, because these games are already announced and we already know they are coming at E3 2018. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, more different topics in the future as well. Next week, probably more E3 stuff. I mean, we're getting closer. Every time I make these videos, I get more hyped. Can't wait to go there. Like I said, I will be going to E3. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram for my behind the scenes adventures, and of course a ton of content here on the channel. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you next week, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye.